W W W W W I W E R W W W
W
R W
I
Support for Wider FM comes from Pedal Bicycles, now with 2 locations in downtown Kalamazoo and Portage. Pedal Bicycles has the right bike for every Kalamazoo rider, whether you're blazing the trails, cruising the streets, or just getting off the training wheels. To keep your ride running smooth, Pedal Bicycles offers multiple levels of repair services, anything from a quick tune-up to a complete overhaul. And to keep you safe and looking fly, Pedal Bicycles has all of the gear and apparel you'll need. To discover your spin within, head to 185 Romans Road in Portage, 611 West Michigan Avenue in downtown Kalamazoo, or pedalbicycle.com. Thanks, Pedal Bicycle, for supporting sustainable transportation, Buns of Steel, and Radio Evolution.
You are now listening to the Western Herald News Minute. The Western Herald, celebrating 100 years of student journalism at Western Michigan University. Last week, WMU honored their outstanding student leaders and supervisors at a banquet on Thursday. After recognizing over 80 student employees and 25 supervisors, the committee announced Caitlin Wiley as Student Leader of the Year and Kimberly Rossman as Supervisor of the Year. WMU Hockey welcomes the University of Minnesota Duluth to Lawson Ice Arena on March 3rd and 4th. Minnesota Duluth, currently ranked number 2 in the nation as of February 24th, will be one of WMU's biggest challenges of the season, who are currently ranked number 8 in the nation. The Student Media Group is still running their design competition and offering a $500 scholarship to the winner. The deadline is on March 13th. Head to westernherald.com for more information. That was your Western Herald News Minute. For more, visit westernherald.com or visit us on Twitter at Western Herald.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is that time of week. It is Wednesday. It is 5 o'clock. That means it is time for the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. This is the weekly program where we come at you with some real news, some real truth, and call out the establishment on its BS. The following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 WIDR or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may be. So, as always, lots of stuff to talk about. Oh, goodness. But why don't we go ahead, start with a little obituary, actually. So, well, first of all, let's put on some of our good old bed music. You know, want to make sure to do that. So, talking about a recent passing. Oh, and this really should make all of us feel deeply, deeply saddened. Did you know that David Rockefeller just passed away? Oh no! I'm crying tears of well, not necessarily joy, maybe like righteous indignation. I'm going to read a little bit from an article posted by the Anno News, as in the news website for Anonymous. You know, those vigilante hackers with their kooky Guy Fawkes masks, those guys. And headline is The Real Story of David Rockefeller That the Media Isn't Telling. So, she goes, I'm going to kind of jump around the article. Died at the age of 101. just a couple days ago. The last surviving grandson of John D. Rockefeller, the oil tycoon who became America's first billionaire, and the patriarch of what would become one of the most powerful and wealthiest families in American history. David Rockefeller lived his entire life in the echelons of U.S. society, becoming symbolic of the elite who would direct public policy to a much greater extent than many realize, albeit often from the shadows. Rockefeller made it clear that he preferred to operate out of public view despite his great influence in American and international politics. Due to his birthright, Rockefeller served as an advisor to every president since Eisenhower. But when offered powerful positions such as Federal Reserve Chairman and Secretary of the Treasury, he declined, preferring a, quote, private role. Rockefeller's true
She
legacy. She goes on to say how the media mostly highlighted all of his philanthropy, and he was an influential banker. Oh, well, he sure was. Ho, ho. She goes on to say, Rockefeller's true legacy is much more mired in controversy than major media outlets seem willing to admit. In addition to having the ear of every U.S. president for the better part of the last 70 years or so, Rockefeller, once again operating behind the scenes, was instrumental in shaping the more cringeworthy aspects of U.S. policy during that time, as well as being a major force in establishing banking policies that led to debt crises in the developing world. Rockefeller, as the head of the Chase Manhattan Bank from 1969 to 1981, worked with government and multinational corporations throughout the world to create a global order unequivocally dominated by the 1%, of which his family was a part. As the New York Times noted back in the 70s, Rockefeller became embroiled in controversy when his constant trips overseas caused the bank to become less profitable, as he prioritized the bank's influence on foreign politics over its actual business dealings. Foreshadowing. During his time as Chase CEO, Rockefeller helped lay the foundation for repressive, racist, and fascist regimes around the world, as well as architecture for global inequality. In addition, Rockefeller helped to bring the debt crisis of the 1980s into existence, in part by direct action through Chase Bank, and also indirectly through his former employee turned Federal Reserve Chairman, Paul Volcker. 2 years before the debt crisis erupted, Rockefeller, Volcker, and other top bankers met at an international monetary conference in the 80s to argue for the establishment of a safety net for major banks, like Chase, that were embroiled in bad loans given largely to countries in the developing world. Now, anybody who lived through 2008, you might want to draw a little connection there. And if you didn't live through 2008, my goodness, you are very young to be listening to a radical political radio show. Congratulations. But yeah, he was one of the folks that really built the infrastructure of the current oligarchy that we are living under. And yeah, that was kind of the framework for what played out in 2008 with the bailout and with our government's general treatment of Wall Street and banks like Chase, who even under so-called liberal or democratic presidents basically saw themselves protected from prosecution, from natural financial penalties you would see even in perfect free market conditions. So, you should be mad about this if you're a libertarian, too. So, it goes on to say, after the crisis brought financial ruin to Latin America and other developing areas throughout the world, Rockefeller, along with other bankers, created austerity programs to, quote-unquote, solve the debt crisis during subsequent international monetary conferences, provoking inequality that still persists to this day. However, thanks to the safety net conveniently established years prior, Chase avoided the economic consequences for its criminal actions. In addition, Rockefeller supported the bloody and ruthless dictatorships of the Shah of Iran and Augusto Pinochet of Chile, while also supporting Israeli apartheid. Rockefeller then went on to found the influential Trilateral Commission, which also while also serving as a major force on the Council on Foreign Relations that he, along with his close friend Henry Kissinger, would come to dominate. Both of these organizations have come under fire for using their powerful influence to bring about a one-world government ruled by the powerful, ultra-wealthy elite, an accusation to which David Rockefeller confirmed as true in his own autobiography. Far from the generous philanthropist he is made to be, David Rockefeller deserves to be remembered for his true legacy, one of elitism, fascism, and economic enslavement. So, I'm not to speak ill of the dead, but good riddance to bad rubbish. And frankly, a lot of the chaos that we are seeing around us today can be linked to, Rockefeller's actions in his lifetime. He exacerbated a lot of tyrants and dictators for short-term financial gain that the world would have to deal with later. Iran is a perfect example of this. It was our own economic interests back in the that caused the Iranian Revolution, and for us to help overthrow a democratically elected government in Iran that led to the kind of state of Islamic theocracy that they live in now. And the precedent for which we are now calling them one of the big bads of the Middle East. Iran has been one of the Trump administration's big targets, talking about putting Iran on notice. Well, make no mistake, it's our own billionaires, our own power brokers, really kind of orchestrated those particular situations. So we cash out on our imperialism later on. Oh, lovely. Of course, his legacy does indeed live on. We see shadows of it everywhere. I won't spend too much time on the program talking about the James Comey hearings, but I would like to mention, that the whole pivot towards Russia coincided. The kind of more blusterous militaristic stance came about because of two competing oil pipelines that were proposed that would have gone through Syria. And if you wouldn't guess it, the one backed by Assad and Russia is different than the one backed by American interests. So when you hear all of this bravado about Russia and their interference in the election, keep in mind there's a lot of economic chips in that particular game. And also obfuscation. Because whether Russia had any direct contact with Trump's cabinet or not, there are other factors that were far more influential in making Donald Trump president than, Russia or the dictator Vladimir Putin. For one, the mainstream media holds a lot of responsibility because, frankly, they had a lot to financially benefit from it. And sorry, I got a little distracted there. Les Moonves, I was actually quoted as saying, Trump is bad for America, but he's great for CBS. So their own profit-generating mechanism was one of the strongest things that, gave Trump as much airtime as he did. Keep in mind, Trump has ran for president several times, and he's always been treated as a joke. And apart from him picking up on the anti-establishment mood in the country, which I will give him enough credit to kind of manipulate that to his own gain. It was far more the media and the establishment's profit-generating mechanisms that threw him out there. And not to mention this was also derived, if we go back to one of the most damning WikiLeaks, in my opinion, the Pied Piper email, talking about the Democratic committee using their leverage within the mainstream media to elevate Donald Trump as a candidate because they thought that Donald Trump would be easier for Hillary to beat than the other candidates. They also had Ted Cruz and Ben Carson on that short list. So, they hold a lot of responsibility for the situation we're in now. And also a Rockefellerian type billionaire named Robert Mercer effectively did a lot of the bankrolling behind both the Trump campaign and Brexit. He's an extremely conservative billionaire, and he has been making a lot of chess moves to bring about a kind of racist, conservative alternative to the neoliberalism that has kind of dominated the economic landscape for past decade and a half. David Rockefeller's shadow looms very tall and very long. Perhaps there's enough common people around to be a decisive stopgap, but we will really have to wait and see as far as that goes. So, let's why don't we move on to a new topic? And again, this is a story that flew under the radar, more or less, except for a few outlets like Democracy Now! And The Intercept, which I'm going to be reading a little bit from this. But this is, again, some of our imperialistic foreign policy at work. Headline of this article, Pentagon denies bombing Syrian mosque, but its own photo may prove that it did. And this article is from March 17th, 2017. So I'm going to skip down a little bit. It says, activists and first responders say the building that was targeted was part of the mosque complex. That the charred rubble shown in the photo was where 300 people were praying when the bombs began to hit. More than 42 people were killed and dozens more injured, according to the monitoring groups and local activists. First responders with the Syrian Civil Defense, known as the White Helmets, rushed to treat the wounded and dig corpses out of the rubble. An administration official told the Washington Post that 2 armed Reaper drones fired roughly the entirety of their Hellfire payload and followed up with a 500-pound bomb. The building, quote-unquote, was holding a meeting of al-Qaeda members. Major Adrian Rankin Galloway, a Pentagon spokesperson, told The Intercept. Davis said military officials believe dozens of core al-Qaeda terrorists were killed. According to the monitoring group, Air Wars, locals say the building the drone struck is part of a mosque and religious school, which was built as an expansion several years ago. Local activist Mohammed Al-Shagel told the New York Times that the people in the building had no affiliation with any military faction or any political side. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based monitoring organization, said that the strike took place between the city of Idlib and Aleppo and called it a massacre. A sign shown outside the south side of the building reads, Umar ibn al-Khattab Mosque. It indicates that it was a religious school. Numerous pictures showing fragments of U.S. Hellfire missiles also appear on social media. The Pentagon has a history of initially denying involvement in some of its worst atrocities. For instance, when the U.S. bombed a hospital in Kunduz, Afghanistan in 2015, the Pentagon initially claimed it was not targeting the hospital. A Pentagon spokesman said that the destruction of the hospital, which was bombed for more than 30 minutes, killing 42 people, was collateral damage. The Pentagon story continued to change over coming days until it eventually admitted responsibility. So, I bring the story up because, one, obviously military intervention, that's one of the important issues we bring up a lot on the show. But in the wake of the renewed travel ban and also a new ban that applies to a broader range of countries, all predominantly Muslim, with now including Egypt and United Arab Immigrants. And this is a ban on bringing any device larger than a smartphone on board with you into the flight cabin. More so than ever, this administration is making it blatant to the Muslim world that they are the target. You've had people considered in Trump's cabinet who blatantly say, radical Islam is a cancer on the world, and other fiery rhetoric like that. And this bombing of this mosque, and please keep in mind too, there were instances of, well, as I just said, that was the last incident I just discussed was under the Obama administration. So this has been going on for a long time, but the messaging does matter. It's going to be far easier for radical Islamic extremists to point to events like this, to point to Trump's rhetoric, the Muslim ban, as a recruitment tool to build a larger base of terrorists. And that's really like one of the most maddening things. If you do talk to somebody who's a Trump supporter and they talk about how it's going to make our country safer, it doesn't. It increases the passion and the drive for people in that part of the world to radicalize, gives them more of a really like a more concise argument for recruiters of groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which, by the way, at one point in this conflict, we were actually arming Al-Qaeda against ISIS. Our Pentagon was doing that. So, even like the moderate Muslims, and they see what our country is doing, and it makes sense in a lot of ways for them to be like, I'm not going to take this anymore. This is too much. These people are coming over from the other side of the world and blowing us up. Like, to them, we are the empire. We are the Death Star coming over there and committing atrocities. A lot of most Americans don't really understand that. Even a lot of people on the left don't either. There's been kind of this willful elimination of anti-war positioning on the Democratic Party's platform, and a lot of folks who kind of follow the party more than the actual like political spectrum kind of just take it at face value. They're like, well, kind of Barack Obama was as anti-war as he could be, and they take kind of this pragmatic stance. It's like, well, you have to stop terrorism. Blah, 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 blah. Well, how you stop terrorism is you stop giving arms to terrorist groups. That might help if you stop giving them weapons. And two, you stop giving them reasons to hate America, like bombing their mosques or telling them that they're not welcome here. Telling them, it's really more annoying and you can't bring on something bigger than a smartphone. But, the messaging there is saying, like, you're from this country. We think you're probably a terrorist. So we're not going to let you bring on something that we think might be a bomb. The real danger here is, America has always been, at least since the Spanish-American War, has pivoted towards imperialism. That really isn't anything new. But combining it with this deft rhetoric from the Trump administration and this outright xenophobic and racist policies. Even George W. Bush, who got the whole war on terror started, he would buffer his actions by saying, oh, we need the help of the moderate Muslim world, da-da-da-da-da. Trump gave some lip service to that in his speech, I will say that much, but everything he said before and everything he has said and done since directly contradicts that. That holy war between the East and the West, that they've been wanting for such a long time. So, yeah, we really need to keep a very close eye on what this administration is doing with the military-industrial complex. Between their statements with North Korea and Iran, it seems like not only are they going to... It seems like every potential plan that... military-industrial complex is wanted, but it's been restrained by the civilian government. Trump is just going to rubber stamp, which, given his anti-interventionist rhetoric during certain parts of the campaign, is all the more reason to understand that he's just a con man. Well, we're going to take a quick little break. Play a quick little bumper there. Keep your dial locked. We've got more of the Hoodrat Strategist radio program on your way. Only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Urban Democracy Feast is a March 25th fundraising dinner for social justice projects and events in the Kalamazoo area. For more information, visit urbandemocracyfeast.org. That's urbandemocracyfeast.org.
Are you trying to get your local Kalamazoo business name out to the WMU and Greater Kalamazoo communities? Why not do so while supporting Radio Evolution through underwriting and donations? For more information, please visit widrfm.org.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a very quick musical interlude. Keep your dial locked. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. Wanted to expand a little bit on our discussion. I remembered there's this really great article from Chris Hedges. He's a kind of a leftist intellectual. He's got a really great program called On Contact. You can find that on YouTube, and I highly recommend it. He talks a lot about political philosophy, history, and movement strategy. Also, a bit of bleak. So just warning you now. It's not like one of those cheerful programs. He recently published an article on TruthDig called "A Last Chance for Resistance," and he lays out some of the implications of what is going on in the Trump administration now, some of their maneuvering, and it kind of falls in line with some of the observations I was discussing. So let me just read a couple of excerpts. The current administration's budget proposes to give the war industry, the domestic policing agencies, the fossil fuel industry, Wall Street, billionaires, and the national security and surveillance agencies more than they could have imagined possible before the election. These forces, as in all fascist states, will be the pillars of the Trump regime. They will tolerate Donald Trump's idiocy, ineptitude, and unbridled narcissism in exchange for increased profits and power. It's kind of what's, side note, that's kind of what's going on with the Republican Congress right now. They're tolerating a lot of his outrageous behavior, but because they understood that his anti-establishment message is what caused them to have such a majority. So they're putting up with a lot of his stupidity on Twitter and whatnot because they're getting to do everything they've ever wanted to do. I mean, look at what they're trying to do to healthcare right now, for instance. Okay, continues. Despots are often buffoons. Appealing to their vanity and ego is an effective form of manipulation. Skilled sycophants can play despots like musical instruments for personal advancement. Trump, like all despots, has no real ideology. His crusade against Wall Street, including Goldman Sachs and the billionaire class during the presidential election campaign, vanished the moment he took office. He has appointed 5 former Goldman Sachs employees to high posts in his administration. His budget will bleed the poor, the working class, and the middle class, and swell the bank accounts of the oligarchs. Trump and his family will profit from his presidency. Corporations will profit from his presidency. Wall Street will profit, and the people will be made to pay. Despots demand absolute loyalty. This is why they place family members in their inner circles. The Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, whose vanity rivaled that of Trump, and Iraqi strongman Saddam Hussein filled their governments with their children, siblings, nephews, nieces, and in-laws, and rounded out their inner courts with racists, opportunists, and thugs of the kind that now populate the current White House. And I want to continue on to what his discussion of State Department. And give me just a second. I want to check, make sure there might be a guest trying to come in right now. I'll be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. We're going to pivot to a different issue, but I would recommend, if you want, it's a very brilliant analysis, A Last Chance for Resistance. That's by Chris Hedges. You can find that on Truth Dig. So let's talk a little bit about Neil Gorsuch. And, my good friend Lawrence just joined me on the program. Say hello to all the people at home, Lawrence.
Yo, what up, everybody?
Yep. So, that's funny because his confirmation happened the same day as the James Comey. I'm having a brain fart. Conference. What you call it?
The James Comey hearing. Where they were, where Trump and his infinite stupidity has basically made the FBI investigate himself and his own own team in the Russia scandal. Even though it shows how the Democratic Party disenfranchised the progressive in the race. The fact that you're so ignorant to think like this goes back to Trump's ignorance. To not think that he did a deal with the Russians as in a pay-to-play type of thing with those connections that he has is what's going to end up getting him in trouble. Like, I have an ongoing bet with one of my friends, and the bet is Trump's not going to last throughout the year. Something's going to happen, and he's going to end up resigning within either a year to 2 years. I'm betting a year. One of my friends is betting within 3.
Oh, yeah. And, we've said that a lot on the program. It's like when people talk about Russia, one of my big frustrations, people are like, watch the man, not the dog. Everybody's kind of hook, line, and sinker in this whole election hacking narrative. But the real story is that he's probably he most certainly has a lot. Him and his whole cabinet have a lot of these business connections with Russian corporations and the Russian government, and that's what the real story is.
Isn't it? Doesn't Rex Tillerson, and the reason why he was catching a lot of heat is because of the sanctions that they have on Russia, and they have a $500 billion deal with ExxonMobil because of Rex Tillerson, and that was one of the connections. So if they drop the sanctions, then ExxonMobil can make $500 billion, and Rex and Trump are going to financially benefit from that. Yeah, that's right. And because this is the thing, like, and I talk to people about Trump all the time. He wasn't the one who wrote the art of the deal. He just put his name on it, just like he doesn't build his buildings. He just put his names on it. That's it. Trump is ignorant, but the one thing that he cares about more than anything else is the money. So if you follow the money and you follow where that goes, I guarantee you, when the FBI investigation is done, they're going to be like, no, Trump did do this. This is what the Republicans did do X, Y, and Z, and they did collude with Russia, and this pay-to-play narrative is the reason why it happened.
And but one thing too, though, is like, I hope people don't invest like this is going to be the silver bullet that saves America, because we're still going to have Pence and most of Trump's cabinet of deplorables. Yeah. So it's not going to really make our situation much better.
No. No. The thing that makes me upset with that is, like, when people talk about Pence, like Pence is just the good guy on the side, forgetting the fact that Pence had a city in East Chicago, Indiana, that was poisoned with lead poisoning. Yeah, that was, what was it, 5 to 10 times greater than Flint? Yeah. And no, wait, not only did he not fix the problem, that lead crisis was in a white suburban area. He fixed the white suburban area in 2 months. He left the Latino and African American area basically to themselves, and they're still dealing with that lead stuff. And if you don't know about it, you can go to youtube.com/TYT Jordan Sheridan, who's one of the best investigative journalists that's in the business right now, he broke that story. And that and Pence also, his his ban, his equal rights, not equal rights, the LGBT rights ban that he's done. Like, Pence is just as crazy as Paul Ryan. He's just as draconian as Ted Cruz. He's nuts. And the thing is, he's just not as crazy as Trump.
Yeah, that's right. And Trump's a pretty unique brand of crazy.
Right.
And that's the whole thing too. Is who's gonna be? This is something I've thought about. Just kind of like spitballing. Like in 4 years, who would be more challenging to beat in a general election, Donald Trump or Mike Pence? And I guess it really depends a lot on who the Democrats decide to run. But
I can tell you this: if they run Cory Booker, if they run like any of those neoliberal establishment cats, they will get wiped out again.
Oh yeah, no, regardless of who the president is.
Regardless if it's Trump, regardless if it's Pence, if they run a neoliberal politician against a populist, they will lose again.
Steve Bannon's turd could run and win against the neoliberal.
Oh my God.
My concern though is like even a progressive might have a little bit more of a challenge from Pence, because Pence at least I feel like he could sound competent in a debate against, say, like Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders, whereas Trump's just gonna it'll be hilarious, just hilarious and embarrassing.
It will be like when Bernie Sanders debated Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz okay, so this is the scale. So the monkey didn't throw feces at the TV, so it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the grading scale. Like the policies are still horrendous and still absolutely draconian. The thing is, if you do not believe me, go on YouTube and look up any of the town hall meetings that the Republicans have been having, or look up any of the town hall meetings that the Democrats have been having. People have been coming out in numbers with facts, hitting them with these politicians, with these politicians who do not represent them, and the Republicans are like, we're gonna repeal it, we're gonna make it better, and then when they finally show their plan, the Trump administration calls it Ryan's plan. It's Ryan Plan 2.0. They're basically shanking each other like in prison.
Yeah,
like it's a giant. It's a gang war with the Republican Party because they don't want to own up to the garbage that they've been spewing. No one wants to take that L.
Well, they have a love-hate relationship with Trump because his anti-establishment rhetoric is what got them the majority, but that included them. So, and Trump's got to maintain his own popularity by making sure not to get too cozy with like establishment Republicans. So like I think he realizes a lot of the people who voted for him are going to hate the American Health Care Act. And he wants to be all like, oh, that was Paul Ryan. He did that. I'm the best.
Right. We got to get rid of Meals Without Wheels, and we got to get rid of all these social programs that are vastly popular. And it's funny when you talk about popularity. Trump's popularity right now in the poll that I just got done looking at, his popularity is at 37.
37?
37.
I don't know. Now, that's unprecedented, though, right? To dip below 40 so early in your term.
Okay, to give you context, at President Obama's worst polling numbers, President Obama's worst polling numbers was at 39. This is the thing that makes me upset. The Democratic polling numbers are at 36. Hillary Clinton's are at 35.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
It's not that they like Trump more. It's that they just hate the Democrats more.
No, it's
you're bad, but you're not that bad.
No, okay. So, what was it? It was a Fox News poll, and I forgot what the other poll that just came out. They were I'm gonna have to look them. I'm gonna have to bring them up back up. But they showed that the most popular things in America right now. Bernie Sanders is at 31. Planned Parenthood was at 57. The Affordable Care Act, the 2010 Affordable Care Act, was at 50, and it was so they are vastly popular. They're popular by the American people.
That's true.
And then you have Mike Pence, Paul Ryan, and Donald Trump that was in the 40s, and you had the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton in the 30s.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, well, how is it that the Democratic establishment will go on TV, the Clintonites and things like that will go on TV and swear up and down that they're right, that they know what's best for America, yet they haven't won anything. They lost over 1,000 seats statewide. They lost 69 out of the 90 governorships. They lost the White House, the Senate, the Supreme Court to a person who was the most unliked American politician in U.S. history.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, come on, son. Where's Ed Lover when you need him?
Oh, I was having a conversation. I went to the county ID. I went to the county commission meeting last night.
I missed
county
that.
ID.
Yeah, I missed
and I was talking to one of my activist colleagues outside. He said something very interesting. He was like, the same people who pay the Republicans to win pay the Democrats to lose. Not necessarily that like Democrats are losing on purpose, but their donors make sure that they stay married to a very specific and narrow strategy that at this time and place can only make them lose.
Oh,
yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. The Democratic Party is the Washington Generals to the Republican Party's Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh man!
And seriously, because think about this. The reason why, look at the DNC chair race, right? And look at what's happened after that. They've had a transit. They put together their transition team. Their transition team had one person who voted for Bernie Sanders and nobody who voted for Keith Ellison, that's a part of this 20 people who's on the transition team. Mm-hmm. So you don't have progressives. You have one one person who you can argue and say that's a progressive on this list of neoliberals, and you have a bunch of people who would rather talk about platitudes and say stuff like stronger together, that we need unity, that they would rather run on identity politics. Actually, one of the people who the Justice Democrats are going to be primarying against said that they want to focus more on identity politics. They don't want to focus on student loan debt or fight for 15.
Oh my God.
Or fight for DAPA or stuff like that. The reason why is because that's stuff that their donors are going to go against.
That's right. Yep. Really, like, let's back this up with some numbers here. This is a really great article, kind of talks about this. It's on Truth Against the Machine, Why Bernie's Progressive Narrative Appeals Across Partisan Lines by Joshua Sager. But he talks about, like, there's a lot, I think that one of the reasons the Democratic Party is so unpopular is that the Democrats, much more than the Republicans, treats its own constituency and Americans overall like they are stupid. Granted, the Republicans kind of do that as well, but the Democrats do it in such a way that, they can walk out and do like it was so obvious how kind of rigged the primary was, even without the actual like WikiLeaks evidence, and they're just going to assume like, oh, we completely deny that, and most Americans going to buy it. No.
Oh, down in Brazil. Brazil just admitted that she did give Hillary Clinton questions during the Democratic debates, and as the DNC chair pledged that she was going to be neutral, yet she was helping out one side. Now, I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree, on the Christmas tree, but if I'm helping one side in a fight, like if I'm giving one person sticks and the other person doesn't have sticks, then I'm not being neutral.
Yeah. So, I think like a lot of it, like a lot of these Republicans who are excited by Bernie, a lot of these progressive policies have a far greater what's the word, mandate than the Democratic and Republican establishment would lead you to believe. Some hard numbers from this article, like on protecting and expanding Social Security, that's something 72% of Republicans approve of. On the idea that money corrupts our political system, that's 80% of Republicans.
92% of Americans, that's Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, believe that money corrupts politics. 92%. If I'm running as a politician and I have 92% of the people behind my back, I am steamrolling anyone who's in my way.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that when it comes to economic policies, the Republicans are not stupid. Now they're full of corruption, just like how they're systemically corrupt, just like the Democrats are systemically corrupt. The difference is between the two is that the Republicans don't hide it. They're aggressive with it. They'll just put it in your face and they're just like, this is what it is. This is just who we are. The Democrats, they'll run on a system of niceness, as in I'm for black people, I'm for Latinos. Like, of course you're gonna be for black people, for Latinos. Unless you're a monster, you're gonna be like, no, I'm against human rights. The thing is that they're gonna say, what's your policy? What are the things that you're pushing? When you say you want to bring back, you're gonna bring back better jobs. How is that gonna affect me? If I used to be working at a factory making $15, $20 an hour or whatever, that's and now that factory done moved, or they done shipped them jobs into a private prison, or shipped them overseas. Now I'm working at Walmart making $7.50. When you say you're gonna bring back good, wholesome jobs or something, are you gonna fight for my wages to go up to $15 an hour so I can have a living wage? Are you gonna fight the drug companies so that when I need to go buy my medicine, I'm not paying outrageous prices? Like my medicine, like I have asthma. My medicine with insurance costs $310 every 3 months. And that's with insurance. Without it would be like $1,200. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's a really great point to bring up, because it's both of the parties, when you really break it down, and at least the establishment Democrats, of which there's all these new Bernie people in there now, but I'll talk about that a little later. But essentially, pre-Bernie Sanders, both of the parties were basically like these corporate parties. They were both economically conservative, but the Republicans, they will come out, we are economically conservative. We are for small government, and although a lot of their policies may be things that rank and file Republicans don't agree with, or even sometimes find abhorrent, it's like, well, they're being intellectually honest, because the Democrats will be economically conservative as well, and then turn around and say, we're for the working people while we're sending your jobs overseas. Yeah.
We're for working people, yet we're going to support TPP, which overrides American sovereignty when it comes to our laws. We're for working people, yet we're not going to fight for to get America's cheaper drugs. We're for working people, yet we are going to stand by, and we're not going to fight against injustice to the average citizen. When you have on film people getting murdered and being murdered and they're unarmed. Like, we're for working people, yet we don't stand with them when they're in need. You saw We've been watching this since Occupy Wall Street. You've been watching this since Dapple. You've been seeing this since Black Lives Matter. You'll have people like Cory Booker who will go on the news and be like, it's unprecedented. I'm a senator. I'm going to stand up against Jeff Sessions. And then when it comes to helping Americans getting cheaper drugs, I'm going to vote against it because I made over $1 million from the pharmaceutical and insurance company.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's like, come on, man. Again, I don't have a problem. The problem that I have is that when it comes to, talking about Bernie Sanders, as much as they smear Bernie Sanders and they smear Keith Ellison, they smear progressives, yet they want Bernie Sanders' email list so they can get his donors. Yet they do not want to implement his policies. They want to use him as a mascot.
I've heard it's like a sheepdog.
Yeah. They want to use him as a mascot. Even though they're not going to do the things that made him popular. But they want to use him as, say, we're for progressive people. We want to unify a tent. We want everybody to stand behind us. And that's what the establishment Democrats have been doing recently. And that's what's upsetting. Because I'm like, how are you going to ask for unity, but you're not fighting for progressive values? You're not fighting for 15. You're not fighting for things that are overwhelmingly loved and beloved by the American people. You're still for those disenfranchised Republicans that you were talking about that would have voted for Bernie. The reason why they would have voted for Bernie is because free education.
Yeah, which that's another thing. A lot of these rank and file Republicans support. Was it 38% of Republicans? Which, I mean, that's not a majority, but that's still a pretty high number for what, if you imagine what the conservative ethos is, you'd say free college, no, but. Yeah, that's over 2/3. So
yeah, okay. So you have
1/3 better.
So again, 29% of Americans call themselves Republicans. 29% of Americans call themselves Democrats. Everybody else is in the middle. So if you have the majority of Americans that's saying, yes, I want to have free college and tuition, even if you're a Republican, you understand that with a higher education, you can get a better job. So that means you could be a better contributor. You could contribute better to society. Even as a Republican, you can understand where that pays dividends. So I don't have to pay for private insurance unless I want to, and I have free college and tuition, and the minimum wage will be increased, which means that we will have a flow of money coming in from the majority of Americans. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, even if you are the most rank and file Republican, you can see how those are beneficial to the American people. Yeah. But again, where are the Democrats who are fighting for these things? The only time these Democrats will fight for these things is unless people, average Americans, and the large majority of us are basically ripping them apart online or being activists. I mean, for example,
that's how Keystone got axed. But
yeah. Well, here's the thing. I was like we were talking about Hillary Clinton's new ad that she just put out, right? And because I was talking about this with one of my other friends, and we're like, it was really inspiring to see Hillary Clinton at the women's marches. You know what I'm saying? Oh wait, she wasn't there. She wasn't there. She was busy in the woods getting her hair did. Right. You know what I'm saying? But who went to Dapple? Who was standing next to Cornel West during the Black Lives Matter marches? Who has basically been who's been walking the walk and just not talking the talk? You have people and progressives who's been doing so. Mm-hmm. But they don't support them because their donors are against that. Yeah, I mean, Bernie's one, but we're also talking about people like Sam Ronan, Tulsi Gabbard. Actually, I really like Tulsi. Yeah. She went to Syria on a fact-finding mission. I'll bet you $1 million. There's no other Democrat in Congress who'd do that. Go to a war zone. You have Doc. Yeah. I want to in 2000 and for the next presidential election, I want to see Tulsi Gabbard need a tournament. I want to see Chelsea Gabbard and Nina Turner as the ticket.
Yes.
Like you want angry, you want fighters, you want progressives. Like you have those either those two women or Keith Ellison and Bernie Sanders, or on a ticket. Like if you want fighters, you want people who will actually fight back. Yep. Like those are people who understand system, who understand what progressive values are, and will fight for them. And that will fight for them in intelligent ways to communicate it with the American people. And also, this is also one thing that also upset me about the establishment Democrats. The establishment Democrats were always smearing him. He's a socialist. The Republicans are going to call him a socialist, and the world's going to blow up or whatever, right? Rick Santorum was on CNN, and he was talking, and he was on a panel with Governor Granholm, and Governor Granholm, in 30 seconds, because Rick Santorum was talking about Bernie Sanders, Governor Granholm in 30 seconds made Rick Santorum agree with Bernie Sanders' economic policies.
Really?
In 30 seconds. So the whole argument of he's a socialist, socialism is bad, and she's like, and she was like, okay, well, you agree that we need fair trade, right? You agree that the American people need a raise, right? And basically he was like, yeah, but kind
of walking through.
Yeah, he was trying. Yeah, but he agreed with her, and this is Rick Santorum. You're right, the man who said people who want to give people free education is a snob. This is that guy. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, like I think Governor Granholm is wonderful. Sometimes, but that's the thing. What was it? Bernie Sanders, one of his quotes recently, because they were talking about the Democratic establishment, and they were saying the establishment Democrats, they do not mind being on the Titanic as long as they have a first class seat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because if Trump's still president, or if one of the establishment Democrats are still president, the consultants, the establishment Democrats, they still have a job.
That's true.
They still have a job. They still have their power.
Yeah, there's this great quote. There's a book I highly recommend everybody go out. This is an Uprising. And it's all about kind of how social movements work and their structure. And for the times we're going through right now, it's essential reading for just about everybody. But anyway, there's a great quote in that book. We're kind of talking on this topic, is that people inside of institutions will value their own power within the institution over the overall power of the institution itself. That's exactly what you're seeing in the Democratic Party right now. They are less concerned with winning than maintaining their place in the institution. I mean, look at, we discussed this a little while ago, but Tom Perez, his whole impetus to run was to keep the Democratic Party under the leadership of the kind of Obama-Clinton mold. Keith Ellison and keep in mind, Keith Ellison was not some far-flung candidate. He got endorsed by Chuck freaking Schumer. And if you look up establishment Democrat in the dictionary, his wrinkly old face will show up.
Hold on. Just to add to that. What you heard on social media, not just social media, but on mainstream media, is Keith is too far to the left. He's a radical left, and they would smear him and saying that he's anti-Semitic and all this other stuff, and forgetting the fact that one of the biggest donors to the I forgot the billionaire's name, who's one of the biggest donors to the Democrats, who's Jewish.
Hey, are you talking about Haim Saban?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Who backed Tom Perez because Tom Perez will not say that the settlements in Israel are breaking international law, which they are. He will not because But forgetting the fact that J Street, which is a very an active, progressive Jewish organization, they backed Keith Ellison. The only person that did not have Bernie-crats and establishment Democrats voting for them was Tom Perez. And the only reason why Tom Perez got into it because it was President Obama and Joe Biden and them as Tom Perez to run, and President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden was phone banking for Tom Perez during the DNC chair race. And the other thing that pissed me off about the chair race is that the DNC, to show their hubris, they broke their own law and their own charter during the DNC race. Because during the two ballots, neither Tom Perez nor Keith Ellison had enough votes to win, and a couple of the other people dropped out. In their bylaws, you're supposed to be able to see who voted for you, so you can ask those other people who still have to vote to try to sway them to vote for you. The DNC decided within the hour before that they're going to do a secret ballot, and they're not going to tell people who voted for who, and that because it's going to be a secret ballot, that no one can that information will not be public until the DNC feels like it. So that's like if this was the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl said, you know what, there's not going to be a coin flip. We're just going to give the ball to the Patriots and put them on the 40-yard line.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Right. So, and the reason why you would think, this is the Democratic Party, we're supposed to be democratic. We're supposed to be transparent. You want unity from the progressive base and the establishment base so we can win and fight Donald Trump. But if the people that are in power are saying you just need to get behind us and listen to us, and that is it, we're not going to give you anything. We're not going to even talk about the stuff that you want to do. You just need to stand behind us. Then no, we don't have any unity. You are missing. You are exactly. You are detrimentally putting the fate of the planet in the hands of people who lost to the most unpopular person in U.S. history to run for president.
Yeah.
Like what?
Mm-hmm. And look, I don't care if you think the election was influenced by Russia or the Illuminati or magic pixies. Like you still like to lose to Donald Trump. I mean, you gotta be a special kind of candidate with a special kind of bad strategy.
Bad strategy. They showed recently. They showed a polling of like attack ads, right? Of how much attack ads and how much policy ads were put into the mainstream media and in social media. The majority of Clinton's ads were attack ads that had nothing to do with policy.
Yeah, that was actually people's biggest complaint about those ads. Not necessarily even that they were overwhelmingly negative, but they wanted ads about policy because that's what people like so much about, Sanders. And, Trump, to his credit, spent a lot of time in his ads talking about issues that he had absolutely no intention of actually filling once he won, but that's it. He talked about like, oh yeah, they've been trade for years, this, that, what have you, and all of Hillary's ads were just like love Trump's hate. Oh, yeah. Stronger together. Here's a non-offensive video of a nice mixed race family talking about their jobs and their life.
No. The ad that made me cringe was the little kids watching TV and they're listening to all Donald Trump's hateful rhetoric, and it's like, do you really want your children to look up to this guy to be president? And it's like, you do realize that the children are not voting, right? Yeah, you do realize that it's not that you do. Yeah, I understand that I get the imagery. I don't want my little cousin to look up to Trump like it's okay.
Or, you know,
But the parent-
if you don't want the children here at Donald Trump, maybe you shouldn't have told the mainstream media to broadcast him 24/7.
Oh, no.
Whoa,
Wait. Shots fired. I mean, no. You shouldn't have propped up Trump during the primary because you thought he was going to be an easier target. That, again, this is things that came out during the WikiLeaks email that Hillary Clinton.
I brought that up earlier.
Yeah,
So.
you know what I'm saying? Like, no, and then on top of that, the Democratic Party now, when it comes to Bernie Sanders and when it comes to the progressive wing, the fact that they would rather kneecap a progressive, and again, understand, people, it's in the Democrats, the establishment Democrats' financial interest to not talk about economic issues.
Yeah,
we can talk about they'll talk about social issues all day. They'll talk about the anti-LGBT bathroom ordinance and how that's unconstitutional, which it is. They'll talk about they'll have the mothers of slain black people on stage talking about police brutality is wrong and unjust, which it is. Again, of course, those are obvious things. What are you gonna do? Like what Martin Luther King would say. Social injustice is tied to economic injustice. If you're not going to talk about the economic issues or talk about the where the problem is, where the money is going, or how you're going to feed these people, then you're detrimentally doing a disservice to the people who you need to vote for you.
Mm-hmm, that's right. Although typically they don't really like to focus on that part of MLK's legacy. It's like, oh, he wanted us all to be racist. Didn't he want us to also like help the poor and not be an oligarchic society?
I mean, didn't the founding fathers also say that? Didn't the founding fathers also say that they that you need to watch out for corporations?
Yeah, I think they did.
I mean, come on, son.
Oh man. So, but you know, I think that's part of the problems with the Democratic Party is just going absolutely crazy right now because their most popular politician is a guy they hate, and like, so they realize it's like the only one of us is popular is this dude we don't like, because usually when they get a popular figure that emerges into the Democratic Party, they'll shift to the center and go with the program. That's what happened with Obama, with Clinton, Bill Clinton. I don't know if Hillary never really... Well, she was popular in the early 90s pushing healthcare, and then... anyway, that's a long story unto itself.
No. The thing is that what they will do is they will do the same thing that they did, I think it was a month or 2 months ago, when they were like, who are the next stars for the Democratic Party? And it was... Tim Kaine, the list of people that they put on there was like Tim Kaine, Cory Booker, what was it, Miss Gillibrand?
Yeah.
Basically, Michelle Obama. They've even recently I heard people say they want Oprah to run, and that's an absolute slap in the face to progressives. It's like, you have a populist leftist movement, whose policies, not rhetoric, but policies, the majority of Americans absolutely agree with and would fight for. And instead of going with those policies and those candidates, you rather have Oprah or Michelle Obama because they have name recognition. They will raise money. Yep. Forgetting the fact that Bernie Sanders raised more money than Hillary Clinton during the primary, yet he was kneecapped and they were biased. They were biased towards him. That's a bias towards Hillary. That's a fact. And he lost. Hillary raised more money than Trump. So if it's all about the money, because she raised more than he did, she should be president right now. That's why I keep hearing from the Democratic establishment, we need money. No, you lost. She lost. How did that work out for you? So if you take small donor money and you're not beholden to multinational corporations, then you will win. You never heard a centrist person, a person who calls themselves a moderate, in America, in the average American mainstream moderate, you've never heard that person say, well, I wish that the Democratic establishment would do more deals with multinational corporations. I would vote for them if they did that.
Yeah. Oh man, I just love that. Yeah,
right.
Do more speeches.
I really wish that that the Democrats did more deals with Raytheon and Pfizer, and I really wish that they would do more of those things. So I would vote for them for that. That's not a centrist position. That's a corporatist position. That's the one thing that rates lower than the media is multinational corporations. The media, mainstream media right now is at like a 28 when it comes to popularity, and multinational corporations are at 23 if you look at recent polling.
I mean, look, people, again, it goes back, Democrats treating people like they're stupid. People know who are screwing them over, you know? and when you, like, that's why it's such anathema. The Democrats, like, we want donor money. Like, the donors are the ones that the people hate. Even the 80% of the Republicans, you know?
Oh, wait. Why is it that... No, but you want to talk about mainstream media. Besides the fact that they would rather show Donald Trump's empty podium than show a policy speech by Bernie Sanders. Besides that, now they can't get enough of Bernie Sanders. They can't get enough of Elizabeth Warren.
Well,
they can't get enough of.
He's the most popular politician in America.
Yeah,
makes some money.
Yeah, no. They can't get enough. No. So they'll go to town halls with him in Trump districts to show that those Trump voters would have voted for Bernie. So let's end this notion from all these Democrats who are saying, well, Bernie didn't win in the primary, or Bernie wouldn't have won against Trump. He couldn't have did worse. like hold on. So your argument is saying he wouldn't have won. Okay. How did Hillary do? Let's see. How did the Democrats do this election? Let's see. You lost over 1,000 seats statewide. You lost 69 out of 90 governorships. You lost the Senate, the White House, and you lost the Supreme Court when you had a year to make sure that your person was appointed.
Yeah, think about how much lead time. If you really want to break this down, it showed they were preparing for Hillary's candidacy as far back as 2014. And they still couldn't win against Donald Trump. You kidding me?
Against a reality star. Against angry Cheeto. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and here's the thing. And this goes back to what we were talking about with Bernie Sanders. They want Bernie Sanders, like the center-right Democrats that are having town halls. They want Bernie Sanders to come to the town halls with them so that their constituents will not cuss them out like they've been doing to the Republicans. They want Bernie Sanders to save them and to go on TV and be the attack dog, even though in the Democratic DNC chair race, they voted down they voted down corporate and lobbyist money going to the Democratic Party. So the Democrats were like, you know that ban that President Obama did that Debbie Wasserman Schultz said, we're going to take that away to reestablish that ban on lobbyists and corporate money. They're like, I like corporate money. I still want that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're telling the people who you need to vote for you, I'm still going to take this money from Fortune 500 companies. I'm going to be voting with their best interests in mind, not yours. And I still need your vote for me to be in office.
It's that whole, we're the lesser evil thing, which you see how well that worked out last time.
No. In comparison, the progressives like us, progressives like the Justice Democrats or New Congress or the Democratic Socialists, we are the Philistines. We are the barbarians at the gate. Because if Trump or a Republican are in office, or if Cory Booker becomes the next president or whatever, then those multinational firms and those consultants and stuff are still going to get paid. They don't get paid if we knock on doors. They don't get paid if you're doing ads on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, or whatever. They don't get paid unless you're spending money in corporate media. So it's in their best. So it's in the party's best interest to keep the budget bloated, to keep the budget non-transparent to the executive members in the DNC. It's in their best interest to fight against what the average American wants.
Yep, that's absolutely right, man.
And that's supposed to be the resistance party against this fascist.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because like I mentioned, like the Democratic Party is going crazy because they don't know what to do with like all of this energy. Most of it is from the progressive left. How are they going to channel this resistance? A lot of what they've been doing is try to like, hey, look, it's Russia, and
Trump,
Trump. And like again, even if, and I think there will be some interesting revelations to come out of this investigation with the Russia thing, but it's not going to be, okay, you find out that Trump's got some business dealings over there. Then what?
I don't know.
What's going to happen then? Well, then I guess the Democrats are going to have to find something else to distract everybody with, because that's their answer to this is our most popular figure, but we hate him. So they go nuts, they obfuscate, they like throw Bernie out there when really, the issue is like he is not about making the party look good. And I think that comment he made about the Titanic, that was him saying it's like I've officially lost my patience. I am no longer gonna, like, I'm gonna keep telling all of my young crazy Bernie people to like Tea Party yo asses, but I am done going to the mat for you.
Well, the thing is this, because if Bernie would have won, John Brazil wouldn't have been the head of the DNC.
No,
like if he would have won, David Washington Social wouldn't have got that job. Yeah. If he would have won, Cory Booker wouldn't have like the Joe Manchins of the Democratic Party, these center right Democrats in these red districts. They're going to cry and complain that that he's changing the party, that he's moving the things too far left.
Yeah.
In comparison to the rest of the world, what Bernie Sanders wants is moderate. But in America, he's too far to the left. And the thing is, when you look at the polling, and I always go back to the polling, the majority of Americans agree with Bernie Sanders and agree with the Democrats.
Yeah, let me touch on a quick excerpt from this article, and I think we'll move on to talking about Neil Gorsuch. But so this is again from that Progressive Ideas article. The wide-reaching popularity of Bernie Sanders may be unusual, but it isn't surprising given what he is advocating. He has spent his entire career pushing solutions that match up remarkably well with the policy preferences of a bipartisan cross-section of the American people. Once the American people are exposed to his policy proposals, they can find a great deal to agree with, even if they find the Democratic label to be anathema. Replicating the success of Bernie Sanders may be as simple as running candidates who credibly argue in favor of these massively popular progressive ideals while refusing to take money from big donors, Democrats. Anybody going up against this type of candidate must resort to lies, distortions, identity politics, and character attacks, as real policy discussions are likely to just reinforce the idea that their opponent holds views that are widely popular. And that's something really important to point out, because most politicians, after they lose an election, they fall off the radar. They become less popular. The more the American people have gotten to know Bernie Sanders, the more popular he's become. Every poll, he gets more and more popular.
Bernie Sanders, on a head-to-head matchup against Donald Trump, had a 15-point lead. Had a 15-point lead. As of right now, Bernie Sanders' polling numbers is at 61%. He is the most popular politician in the United States right now. So let's dispel this notion that because he's a socialist, because he's Jewish, because he's old, or whatever, that the American people do not want his policies. Yeah. The American people do not, that he's fairy dust, or whatever the stuff that mainstream media and stuff was using to smear him. And the fact, it's the same thing that I go back to with Cleve Ellison. Again, character attacks. They smeared him because they can't attack him on policy. Now, Tom Perez, on the other hand, you can tackle policy. When he was with the Justice Department, he didn't go after big banks.
Yeah.
When he was working under the Obama administration, he didn't go against the big pharmaceutical companies. He didn't go against the big banks. He did not fight for the American people in an active way. He was passive aggressive with the policies that he was doing to help out the American people. He was not. He was for the interventions that we did. He was for TPP. No, these are not things that are progressive. These are not things that are democratic. What are you doing?
Why are you guys so mad that he won? He's a progressive too.
Oh no. Wait. This also goes back to the article that just came out on in NBC News article that came out that was saying that the left, the progressive left, are basically the Tea Party, and that the establishment Democrats are in fear that they'll be primaried because we are disenfranchised, because the disenfranchised left are going to fight against these establishment Democrats. Again, establishment Democrats are people who are moderate Democrats. What have you won within the last 8 years?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like what? Literally, what have you won? Because I cannot think of a worse loss in U.S. history. 1,000 state seats. 1,000 state seats. You lost. Like the Democratic establishment and the Democratic Party was decimated. And instead of going with the energy in the party, you're saying we should double down on this losing strategy.
Oh, that's what we gotta do. Hire David Brock. Send everybody to David Brock camp for the weekend.
But this also goes back to the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Mainstream media. Why are you hiring people like? Why is MSNBC leaning more to the right? I mean, it's easy to lean more to the right when you don't have a spine to stand up straight. CNN. Donald Trump called you fake news. What did you do? You hired 2 of his campaign workers. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like mainstream media. I understand that you want running, you want money, you want access, you want ratings. I get that. I totally do. But come on, son. Y'all, instead of dealing with neutrality, instead of having neutrality, basically saying Democrats say this, Republicans say this, we don't have facts, so we don't know. We don't know.
There's a climate change. Yeah, climate change is a perfect example of that because they always have somebody who is a climate change scientist and a denier. And they have a climate change denier. Then they put Bill Nye the Science Guy against him, and Bill Nye's sitting there like, Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Why do I still have to do this?
Why do I still have to explain this nonsense?
And it's like the first thing, usually he always slips it in there. It's like, 99% of scientists agree on this.
Right. 97%.
This isn't a debate issue.
Right.
It's like, we just want to present both sides of the argument. It's like, it's not.
No. Yeah, we want to present both sides of the argument, yet one side of the argument is financially tied to deny and or go against fact.
Yeah.
So when Donald Trump calls you fake news, or when you don't call people out on lies or these alternative facts, then what is your purpose?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Let me this kind of deviating a little bit, but I think that's really like when the media is under attack right now from Donald Trump, and he really is trying to undermine the free press, but they really dug their own grave with that. I mean, people haven't trusted the media in a long time for good reason.
They fed the beast.
Yeah, and people notice that the media has been feeding us garbage for a long time. Like they've deliberately not reported on some of the really important stories. They focus on a lot of trivial crap, and sometimes they just straight up lie. You saw a lot of that during the previous election. especially in regards to what happened in the primary. I'll never forget Chris Cuomo telling people it's illegal to look at the WikiLeaks. You know?
Wait, no. In prime example of that, and because we're talking about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders in 2015, when they were talking about 2015 and early in 2016, when he was talking about running, he got 10 times less coverage than Donald Trump. I think he got
more than that.
I think he got like 5 times less coverage than Joe Biden, than them covering Joe Biden and thinking that Joe Biden's going to run.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it goes to this narrative like, okay, I understand that it's in your financial interest to not cover these policies. I understand that it's in your financial interest because pharmaceutical companies and multinational corporations like Boeing and stuff, they're sitting there talking to you in your meetings, so there are certain things that you're not allowed to talk about. I get that. I understand that. This is the problem. When rivers are flooded with oil, when people are being lead poisoned in New York, and that 33% of our country is basically a third world country that does not have clean drinking water, when you have protesters getting their heads cracked, and the fact that the majority when you have systemic corruption, that you understand is systemic corruption, and going across the country, when you will cover a Muslim terrorist, even though you are more likely to be shot by a white terrorist, a white person in America with a gun, than a Muslim terrorist, you're covering that more than actual facts.
Yeah.
Then you are detrimentally hurting the fabric of America's society.
Well, you know, and we've talked about that a lot too. I mean, again, like we are reaping what the media has sown, because like even like MSNBC and the leftist media for years has been like, oh, terrorists, they're the boogeyman. And you know, you talk about like, you know, Obama's rhetoric and his administration's rhetoric during the war on terror, and you know, and it's like, oh, why are they attacking us? It wasn't much better than the Bush line about how they hate our freedoms. He was just like, oh, we don't know. Just a few bad apples though. You know, and you look at look at the shoe bomber. You know, obviously, like, you know, you can never agree with somebody who's going to kill innocent people. But he had reasons, like they were based on U.S. policy. He didn't just write on it, says, I hate freedom, I'm going to blow up this plane. No, it was like legitimate grievances that had to do with our imperialism overseas, with a stance on supporting Israel's apartheid practices. So
to add to that, I mean, we're giving over $1 billion to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is dropping bombs in Yemen.
Yeah,
and wait. And wasn't it and we destroy whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning or others when they're telling us that we're killing innocent civilians.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia is like, in the Muslim world, they're like the Wall Street of the Muslim world. Like, no one hates, the rest of the region hates them. They're just greedy and full of money, and we're like, yeah, help them out. They pay attention to that.
To also add to that, we live in Kalamazoo. We had a mass shooting in Kalamazoo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, how much news coverage did you see on the Kalamazoo mass shooter in comparison to... Kalamazoo mass shooter, the Planned Parenthood shooter, the Umpqua shooter. How much coverage did you see on that in comparison to?
Well, what's interesting, like I remember this from last year too, is because, mass shootings were really in the headlines a lot in 2016. I noticed over time there's legitimate, the local news even started having like this little bit like terror watch, almost like they just wanted to keep shifting your focus. It's like, make people think it's like, man, we've got a really bad social problem, a really bad problem with like gun regulation in this country. Why are people going out just indiscriminately killing people for no good reason? But they don't want you to think about that stuff, so shift the focus to Muslim terrorists and ISIS.
Wait. To also add to that, I do not want to hear any Republican ever say that it's only a mental issue thing. When Congress had a chance, a chance to put a ban on people who have mental issues and domestic abusers in a bill that was a bipartisan bill, and the Republican congressmen and women voted it down.
Yeah.
So the fact that, and it's not just that, they also voted for a policy for people who have mental issues. People who are unfit to even pay their own bills are allowed to get a gun now. So again, it goes back to who do they they're not representing us. So who are they representing?
Yep.
Who are they getting their money from? And when you have someone like a Bernie Sanders or a Jill Stein, who not only are raising their money from small donors from average Americans, Justice Democrats again, New Congress, Democratic Socialists. These are all people who are raising money of the Green Party. They are raising money from small donors from average Americans because they actually plan on representing the average American.
That's right. Yeah.
So again, like, it infuriates me because just like with Neil Gorsuch, like we were talking about, Neil Gorsuch, for those who do not know, is Trump's pick for the Supreme Court. But the Democrats are literally starstruck on how to fight back with him. They're flabbergasted on how to fight him.
If you watch some of the confirmation hearings, it's like they're playing like softball, and most of the questions go back to, it's like, well, why didn't they approve Merrick Garland? You know, it isn't trying to investigate his actual record. Like, outlets like Democracy Now! And like RT and all them have done far more to vet Neil Gorsuch than any Democratic rep. I mean, except maybe Al Franken. I will give Al Franken credit. He did go in on him with his opinions on like Citizen United. And I give Al Franken some credit. Like, I'm still a little miffed about the primary, but he's been pretty consistent.
Al Franken, I have a problem with Al Franken too, but from watching what he said, I was like, okay, you get some brownie points. But again, no, the questions that they should have been asking. Okay, the president has a right to, and I would have him say this on record, the president has a right to nominate a Supreme Court justice, right? And the person, he'll probably answer, I'll be like, these are all yes or no questions, so say yes or no. He's like, yeah. So, as a Supreme Court nominee yourself, when President Obama nominated Merrick Garland, and the Republicans did not have a hearing for him in over 200 days, is that constitutional or unconstitutional?
Yeah.
No, I was like,
frame it that way.
Yeah. Is it constitutional or unconstitutional? Yes or no? These are yes or no questions. Yeah. And if he says no and try to give some BS no, so and you be like no, so it's not unconstitutional. Okay, so in 260 some days, we will finish this hearing.
Yeah.
No. Or he'll be like, or he'll say, yes, that's unconstitutional. Yeah. So you're going on record and saying what the Republicans did, these same Republicans who are talking to you now, and what the Republicans did was unconstitutional, and that this seat that you're about to take should still be going to Merrick Garland. Is that correct? Yes or no? Yeah. And then frame it. That's how you attack him. Yeah. You can attack him on Citizens United, which is what he should be doing. You can attack him on his voter suppression.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You can attack him on all those things, which are all legitimate. Mm-hmm. But the main thing that you can attack him on is saying what your party did is unconstitutional. In 269 days, as many days that it took for us that's when we'll finish this hearing. Until then, good day, sir.
Well,
I gotta go.
Like, assertiveness just is not in the toolbox of most Democrats. I would say almost all of them. Like, I I wish Nina Turner was there so I could get him in here.
If Nina Turner and wait, and Elizabeth Warren, Nina Turner, and Bernie Sanders was on that confirmation hearing. The elbows that would have been thrown.
It was like, oh my God, Bernie Sanders coming in with the steel chair. Yeah, that's it.
Right, Nina Turner coming off the rope. Like, again, but that's how. If you want to be the resistance and you want to go against what Trump's nominee, that's how you do it. Mm-hmm. You frame it in those ways so he's on record. You do not play softball with them, and this is what the Democrats do. This is the reason why they are the Washington Generals, and the Republicans are the Harlem Globetrotters. It's because of that. It's because they'll be like, we're gonna play nice. We're not gonna rock the boat. We're gonna play nice.
Yeah, I mean, their litmus test seems to be, as long as you don't come in wearing a Klan hood, you're
no. Their litmus test is are you what was one of the questions? Are you going to be different from Trump? Like that was basically their litmus test. Yeah, are you if Trump does something that's unconstitutional, will you say it's unconstitutional? And he'll be like, yes, I will say it's unconstitutional. Right. Yeah, and then am I okay? Mm-hmm. Again, if I'm going after his record, his voter suppression record, his disenfranchising Americans, you have disenfranchised the average American with your support of voter suppression tactics.
Yeah, and like I say, he talks a good game, but like his actual record is in most instances like the opposite of what he was trying to sell the confirmation committee during those hearings.
But that's how you would attack. If I was there, that's how I would attack him. I'll be like, what you have done, your record has shown that you are anti-democratic. Your record has shown that you are anti-American. So please explain to me why you should be on the Supreme Court. If your record has shown that blah 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 that you supported the idea of cross-check and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, like you supported disenfranchising the average American from participating in an American right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, it's interesting, like, that's another one of those shell game issues that Republicans like to play with their base. This guy had so when I was at the inauguration, I had a lot of conversations with Trump supporters, but there was this one dude, I remember, we talked about voter suppression, and he's like, well, didn't you hear Obama was getting a bunch of immigrants to vote in California? Like, there's video of him telling to do it. And, like, I was like, no, I haven't heard about that. I do know, like, undocumented immigrants can't vote. They just can't. And I was like, let's stick a pin in that. And then I talked to him about, this is what cross-check is. And, for those of you who don't know, it's what won Trump the election. Essentially, it's a database of like-sounding names. Republicans devised it. And
a Kansas Republican devised this program.
Yeah. And what it is, if the names sound too similar, name gets struck off of the voter rolls. This disproportionately affects Black and Latino voters. And when I described to him how that works, he got upset about it too. He's like, no, that's not right. People should have the right to vote, So, it's one of those like kind of smokescreen tactics. But again, like, it's one of those things, again, that like the Republican base, they'll take these stories about like voter fraud that they hear from Fox News, or Breitbart. But if you actually like peel it away a little bit and kind of flip the other side of it, it's not too hard to convince even somebody on the right, like a rank and file person on the right. It's like, oh yeah, that is wrong.
Oh well, to add to that, especially with Neil Gorsuch, like again. This is what pisses me off about the Democratic Party and their lack of a spine, in the sense of fighting back against him in an effective way. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, if this is a seat on the Supreme Court that's supposed to be going to a person that voted, going to a person who's worse than Antonin Scalia. Antonin Scalia, a man who said that black and Latino children should go to slower track schools. That Antonin Scalia. And this guy is worse than him. Like, are you what?
Yeah, and why you wouldn't hold out for somebody, make them try to put someone more moderate in there? Because look, I think the Democratic Party doesn't really understand this either. The future is progressive. It is. And we're going through some dark times right now, but we got the numbers. We just got to make sure not to, die off or move to Antarctica. But what will happen is we'll have this future where the vast majority of America is super to the left, and we'll have a conservative Supreme Court. And
okay. Do you have any of the actual any of the things that he has that's vetting him, that talks about his record? Do you have anything like that?
Oh yeah. Well, I looked up a couple things. I don't have the Democracy Now, but there's an article about his voter suppression thing. And this is by Ari Berman, by the way. Great book. Give Us the Ballot. It's a historical overview of the fight for voting rights. It was published just a couple years ago, and it goes all the way from civil rights movement to the recent repeal of the Voting Rights Act, which is probably one of the most atrocious things to happen in our government in recent years. We're basically back to a pre-voting rights era baseline. Just a little bit more obfuscation, where they're not being they don't do Jim Crow tactics anymore, but they do things that might as well be, cross-check.
I actually would say, there are a lot of Jim Crow tactics.
Yeah.
If you look at Wisconsin, Wisconsin, for example, and in the Rust Belt states, especially with cross-check, it was, I think it was over 50,000 votes, over 500,000 votes were purged because of cross-check, and these are the same people. And especially in Wisconsin, the whole voter, you need a driver's license or an ID. The places that you need to go to get those things are usually closed during the week. The place where you have to get it is 100 miles away from your house or something like that, like in Texas or in other states. Yeah. They close down polling stations so they can make the lines longer for people to vote. These things are tactics so that less people will vote.
Right.
And it's on video, Republicans saying that when less people vote, it's better for their party. They don't want more people to vote and be in the democratic process, because when less people vote, that means it's more likely for them to win. And if you do not believe that, look at this last election. Look at this last election.
Yeah.
We had a record number of a low voting turnout, and we have President Cheetos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this also goes back to this is a moral issue just as much as this is a financial issue. Who's benefiting from people not voting? And especially if both your candidates are representing Raytheon, if both of your candidates are representing the private prison industry, if both of your candidates are representing big pharma, who are they going to go for? Are they going to go for a Republican or Republican light? And most people, if that's the choice, is Republican or Republican light, will go and just vote for the regular Republican. That has been proven out to be fact.
Yeah.
And then you have someone who's against voting rights, and someone who's against Citizens United, who's for Citizens United. This Neil Gorsuch is for Citizens United.
Yep.
So you're for money in politics, and 92% of the country believes that money corrupts politics, and that is a fact.
That it is. Yep. Even most of the libertarians I know will be like, oh, money's. There's a small handful of people who actually think.
Do you believe that?
People,
you really believe that? You really believe that a corporation is a person who has inalienable rights that was given to them by their creator? So if corporations are people, so when corporations are people, that means when they poison people and like they poison the water supply of people. When coal companies can dump coal waste and sludge into the rivers of the population, that means those corporations can go to jail and get a death penalty, right?
Yeah.
That means those corporations can go to jail, right? No. That's not how that works. That's not how it works, right?
So let me wrap up real quick. I want to explain a little bit more specifically. So the voter suppression thing, and I would really recommend everyone read this article. It's a bit long. It's on The Nation, but it's a little bit more detailed than I can really give credit or do justice right now. But essentially, he's a big supporter of Hans von Spakovsky. President Bush, back in the George Bush Jr., puts Spakovsky on the Federal Election Commission in late 2005. Gorsuch wrote an email, good for Hans, yeah. And basically, von Spakovsky, in a nutshell, has done some really terrible things, perpetuating the voter fraud myth, and explaining a little bit more.
Wasn't that guy the guy who said that dead people are voting? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
That was that guy. Yeah, that dead people are voting.
Some examples of kind of what Spakovsky is like. He was special counsel to Brad Schlotzman, the assistant attorney general for civil rights, who said he wanted to gerrymander all of those crazy libs right out of the voting section. When von Spakovsky was nominated to FEC, 6 former lawyers in the voting section called him the point person for undermining the Civil Rights Division's mandate to protect voting rights. And, we were talking, he was the one who said requiring official picture identification, such as driver's license, current address, would immediately cut down a large amount of fraud, perpetuating that myth. And
wait. For those who don't understand what that myth is, forgetting the fact that the majority of Americans do not own a vehicle. They do not own a motor vehicle. So the majority of Americans, if they're getting around, they're either walking to work, or they're riding a bike, or they're using public transportation. If you're using public transportation, or you're using a bike or whatever, then you don't need an ID. So the majority of Americans, like in down south in Tennessee or whatever, it's going to take them longer to get an ID for a vehicle that they do not have. And also forgetting the fact that the majority of Americans, that 50% of Americans make less than $30,000 a year. If you make less than $30,000 a year, it's not likely that you're going to have a vehicle.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And it's about 7 o'clock. I think we ran out of time. Lawrence, thanks for coming on the show, man.
No problem,
come on,
man.
Drop by anytime. You always make this a much livelier program. There's a big local story. I didn't get to it. I hope to interview one of my activist colleagues about it for next week's program. But you might see something about that online. Anyway, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. It's been the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, your only source for political revolution. Only on 89.1 WIDR. And the preceding thoughts, views, and opinions were not necessarily those of 89.1 FM WIDR Kalamazoo.